First at 9. This is Other Derana 24/7.
Parliamentary debate on CBSL bond issue heats up. RTI needs more public interest, says Transparency International. Trump's nominee Mike Pompeo becomes new CIA chief. And Upul Taranga to captain ODI against South Africa. Hello there, good evening. Thank you for joining us on Other Derana 24/7 News. I'm Dasuman Prematunga and we start off with the local news. Now, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says the current government is focused on a mechanism to safeguard Sri Lankan women who are employed as migrant workers abroad. The Prime Minister made these comments addressing the 4th ministerial consultation of the Abu Dhabi dialogue held in Colombo today. The 4th ministerial consultation of the Abu Dhabi dialogue was inaugurated by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe along with the participation of Minister of Foreign Affairs Mangala Samaravira and a few other state officials. The Abu Dhabi dialogue is organised as a collaborative government approach with the purpose of recognising joint responsibilities of member states to enforce compliance by stakeholders engaged in the labour recruitment process. It also focuses on the recruitment of national laws and regulations pertaining to the employment of temporary contractual labour. Currently, the Abu Dhabi dialogue comprises 18 origin and destination countries, including countries of the Gulf Cooperation Council and prominent South Asian nations.
Minister Thalata Atukorala, at the very beginning, shown a keen interest in the matter of foreign employment, the dialogue, and also how the people who returned home after employment, having contributed to the foreign exchange on the Sri Lanka, are treated here. We are also looking into the issue of their families, especially when both parents are abroad. How do we look after the families? How do we look at the either certain social costs for some of the families? How do we look at those costs? And more than any other issue, the fact that a large number of migrants are women, and how do we safeguard the women? And this is a dialogue that we have to hold with the stakeholders. With whatever the shortcomings are, this is the best organized process of migration for labor in the history of the world. The middle class is being created in our country partly due to foreign employment.
The Prime Minister went on to speak of the opportunities ahead for Sri Lanka as the South Asian region heads into a new era of rapid economic development.
The trends show that more and more of the emphasis is coming on to Asia and Pacific. And I'm not talking on only the Pacific, but more and more is coming to Asia, where South Asia has become the fastest growing region. And this whole region on the Indian Ocean, from South Africa to Indonesia, going to be one of the fastest growing regions. So how do we make use of it, allow for more migration, and ensure a system in which we will benefit? For Sri Lanka, we ourselves are looking now of exploiting the situation of becoming the hub of the Indian Ocean, where we become the center for logistics for business, and we ourselves are developing our own corridors for economic development. This cannot be. Sri Lanka is able to do it because the whole area is developing, the global economy has developed, and the fact that foreign employment has played a role in it. So let us now work out on this very important pillar as to how we will face the future despite the problems that may rise in the next year or two.
Transparency International Sri Lanka says the public lacks understanding regarding the Right to Information Act and its benefits. Speaking to Other Derana today, Transparency International's Manager of Right to Information, Sankita Gunaratne, called on the authorities to create adequate awareness on the right to information.
From the 4th of February, people are able to file RTI requests at any place that's defined as a public authority. This means schools, police stations, ministries, etc. One of the positives is that there is something called a public interest override. So even in situations like national security or confidential information, personal confidential information, there is an override where the public interest in releasing the information is greater than the harm that can be caused by releasing the information, in those situations, that kind of information can be released. So every exception in the law is subjected to this override. Now, one of the problems in the RTI law is that it didn't come as a result of a citizens' movement in Sri Lanka. It came as a result of political agitation and media demand. So as a result of this, the citizens are not aware of what their true right is or is going to be. We have some concerns as to whether citizens will take ownership of this right. There is a lot of awareness that needs to be raised, and this should come from the public's part as well as from the Ministry of Mass Media.
Leader of the National Freedom Front and former Minister Vimal Weerawansa has been further remanded until the 7th of February. Weerawansa, who was arrested on charges of misusing state vehicles, was denied bail when he was produced before the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court today.
The National Freedom Front leader was arrested by the Financial Crimes Investigations Division on January 10th after he arrived to give a statement pertaining to allegations and was remanded as per an order issued by the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court. The former minister is accused of misusing state vehicles during his tenure as Minister of Engineering Services, Housing and Common Amenities, allegedly causing losses of more than 91 million rupees to the government. The attorney appearing on behalf of the suspect argued the lack of adequate evidence to arrest the former minister. The attorney had also requested the court to take into consideration Weerawansa's daughter's state of mind in the circumstance of her sitting for the GCE O-level examinations this year. However, Magistrate Lanka Jayaratna said that strong evidence had been produced by the FCID against the suspect. The magistrate meanwhile issued an order to probe allegations against Deputy Megapolis and Western Development Minister Lasantha Alagiyawanna, who was Deputy Minister of Vimal Weerawansa's ministry at the time, as well as former Chairman of State Engineering Corporation Ashu Marasinghe. Former Assistant General Manager of State Engineering Corporation Samantha Lokuhannadige was also further remanded. Meanwhile, a man who is said to be a supporter of former Minister Vimal Weerawansa, who had aggressively shouted before the Fort Magistrate, was remanded on charges of contempt of court. The man had demanded that legal action be taken against Lasantha Alagiyawanna, the former Deputy Minister under Weerawansa's ministry and now the Deputy Minister of Megapolis and Western Development in the present government.
A workshop titled Climate Change, Opportunities and Challenges for Business, which was organized by the American Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka, or AMCAM, was held today at the Golf Face Hotel under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. The keynote address of the event, Climate Change, Opportunities and Challenges for Business, was delivered by Professor Sir Robert Tony Watson, the chairman of the Intergovernmental Platform for Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. President Maithripala Sirisena was presented an award for his commitment towards mitigating climate change.
When we approve the plan.
Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Wayamba Development and Cultural Affairs Palitha Thevaraperuma exposed some of the serious sanitary issues at the Valipanna Service Centre on the Southern Expressway. The Southern Expressway service station in Valipanna, providing a stop and rest facility of modern buildings, is maintained by a private company. It was once known to have provided especially clean drinking water and decent restrooms. Last evening, Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Wayamba Development and Cultural Affairs, Palitha Thevaraperuma had visited the Valipanna service station without proper notice. He had first inspected the restroom facilities only to understand that there were many sanitary issues, especially pertaining to its maintenance. The minister also found that the water supply to the station was contaminated with seawater and impure. 2 water bowsers supplying water to the service station were subsequently detained by the police. Legal action is to be initiated against the director board of the private company.
අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මම හෙට අනිද්දාට හෙට අනිද්දාට ඇවිල්ලා මේ සේවා පියසර මිනිස්සු වෙන එක නවත්තනවා මම ඒකයි.
The minister remained at the service station for more than 12 hours until measures were taken to properly address the many shortcomings. We take a short break. We'll be back with more news. Do stay with us. Welcome back. More local news. Bloomberg ranks Sri Lanka amongst one of the highest risk countries for investors. Now, in a country risk score based on a range from 0 to 100, Sri Lanka has scored 12 points, specifying a high overall risk compared to other countries. Bloomberg has taken into consideration 29 indicators covering financial, economical and political risks. Total foreign reserves, excluding gold held by each country's central bank as a percentage of the gross domestic product, unemployment, inflation and overall expectation of a country's future volatility also have been taken into account. Norway has been listed the lowest risk country, while Venezuela is ranked the highest risk nation. The controversial central bank bond issue was debated in Parliament today. JVP leader Anrukumara Dissanayake produced the debate proposal as an adjournment debate. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Finance issued a press release today informing that the former governor of the central bank, Arjun Mahendran, is not working in any capacity in the ministry. The statement further revealed that the Ministry of Finance denies media reports which state the former governor of central bank is currently acting as an advisor to the ministry on the central bank. Now, we spoke to the chief economist at the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Anushka Vijayasinghe, and Professor Sirimal Abhiratna for further analysis on Sri Lanka's risk factor according to Bloomberg. Okay. And we take a look at the Parliament story again because it's created quite an issue today. Yeah, the controversial central bank bond issue was debated in Parliament today.
ගනුදෙනුව තිබෙනවා ගනුදෙනුවට හවුල් වෙලා ඉන්නවා ගනුදෙනුවෙන් ඇට්‍රස් කරගන්න ලද ධනය සංගවා තියෙන තැන පෙන්눔 කරලා තිබෙනවා. එහෙනම් දැන් පරීක්ෂණ සහ ඉස්සරහට ක්‍රියාමාර්ග නොයන්නේ ඇයි? අතරමැද අගමැතිවරයා ප්‍රමුඛ ආණ්ඩුවක් ඉන්නවා.
හොරුන්ට දඩුවම් දෙන්න ඕන ඒක අපි පිළිගන්නවා. නමුත් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ඒ කටයුතු කරන්න බෑ. ඒ කටයුතු කරන්න ඕන අධිකරණේ. විවාදයක් අනවශ්‍ය නම් මම මේ කල් දාන්න කියන කරු කතා කරන්නේ.
කැමති අගමැති ඔබතුමා කරගෙන යන්න මේ විවාද කරන්න ඕනේ මේ ජනතාව බල කතා කරන්නේ. ඔබතුමා කතා කල් දාන්න ඕනේ ඔබතුමා කතා කරන්නේ.
මේක විවාදයක් නෑනේ. මම කියන්න කැමති අපිට හංගන්න කිසිම දෙයක් නෑ.
ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණෙන් අහන්නේ ඔබට ඔබ මේ ආණ්ඩුවට ඇඟිල්ල දික් කරනකොට එදා ඔබට ඒ හයිය තිබුණාද? ඔබ එක්කෝ ඩීල් එකක් තිබිලා ඇති මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයාගේ ආණ්ඩුවත් එක්ක නැත්නම් ඔබට කොන්දක් තිබිලා නැහැ එදා කතා කරන්න.
අපි රංජන රාමනායක මන්ත්‍රීතුමා, හොරුවල්ලන මන්ත්‍රීතුමා, ඇමතිතුමා සමා වෙන්න. ඇමතිතුමා ඔබතුමා යෝජනා කරන අර්ජුන් මහින්ද නතරංගොඩ ගන්න ඕනේ කියලා. ඔබතුමා යෝජනා කරන්න අර්ජුන් ඇලෝසියස් වත්තනංගොඩ ගන්න ඕනේ කියලා.
ඔබතුමාගේ හොඳම මිත්‍රයා නේද ජනවාරි 8 ඉස්සර අර්ජුන් ඇලෝසියස්.
ජනවාරි 8 වෙනිදා නෙවෙයි ගරු ඇමතිතුමනි අපේ ආණ්ඩුව ආවට පස්සේ අපි අනිවාර්යෙන් අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්නවා. ඔබතුමාට පුළුවන් නම් කොන්දා දීලා කියන්න දැන්.
අනිවාර්යෙන් මම කියනවා මෙතන වංචාවක් සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා. හැබැයි එතුමයි අර්ජුන ඇලෝසියස් මහත්මයායි ඔබතුමාලගේ මුදල් තමයි ඒ කාලේ ආරක්ෂා කළේ කියලා චෝදනාවක් තියෙනවා.
For the last so many decades, we are talking about corruption. Corruption under the UNP, corruption under the SLAP, corruption under the UNP, UPFA. That ministry is corrupt, this ministry is corrupt. Who is the man in this country who has been convicted for corruption in court? Is there one person? You have been talking about corruption under every government. Has there been one single man from any government who has been convicted in court for corruption?
But they have been put behind bars.
This is the position.
Legally.
So you are fooling the people. You are fooling the people. You are fooling this house. You are fooling the members of this house. You are hand in glove with each other in the matter of corruption. Both the UNP and the SLAP are hand in glove with each other in the matter of corruption. That is the truth. And the people are getting sick of all of you. People are getting tired of all of you. People feel that all of you must be packed off. And people might prefer a dictator taking over.
And we go back to our chief business story today, which has caused quite a stir. And we spoke to the chief economist at the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Anushka Vijayasinghe, and Professor Sirimal Abhiratna for further analysis on Sri Lanka's risk factor, according to Bloomberg.
So Sri Lanka's rank on the Bloomberg Country Risk Index has been rated fairly unsatisfactory. We have to understand what some of the drivers of that might be. One of the main pillars on which we have been ranked low is on the pillar of political risk, policy uncertainty, changes and uncertainty in the reform agenda, and also questions around the coalition government.
Country risk has been based on a very limited number of factors such as the stock of foreign reserves, unemployment rate and inflation rate. While for Sri Lanka it is mostly the tiny stock of foreign reserves which is around 3.5%, 3.5 months of imports, which is a very fragile situation. Which affects actually exchange rate and many other areas. Until we get our export growth as well as foreign direct investment inflows right on track, we have to face this situation and we have to have more foreign loan. So that's why the country is in a risky situation, particularly in this case.
The oil share price index was on a steep downtrend throughout the day to close in negative territory, losing 28 points. Volume and turnover dropped significantly with a meager net foreign inflow. Here's Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange with more details on the day's stock market trading.
The benchmark all share price index lost 27.64 points to close at 6,134.41. while the S&P Sri Lanka 20 index lost 20.96 points to close at 3,479.48. The turnover was 208.01 million rupees with 8.56 million shares changed in hands in 2,489 trades. The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,704.06 billion rupees. Top 5 gainers of the day were Adam Investments, Paragon Ceylon, Kalinivadi Plantations, CT Holdings and Union Chemicals, while the top 3 losers were SNB Leasing, Non-Voting, Amanata Kaful, Office Equipments, Agstar and Beruval Resorts. Today's foreign purchases were 70.35 million rupees and foreign sales were 62.3 million rupees. There was one crossing and the crossing turnover was 31.13 million rupees.
And let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies. We're going for a break now. Sports News is up next. Welcome back, and starting off with cricket news, Upul Tharanga has been named Sri Lanka's new captain for the 5 upcoming one-day internationals against South Africa. The decision has been taken due to the absence of the former captain Angelo Matthews. Meanwhile, Nuwan Pradeep and Danushka Gunatilaka are expected to return to Sri Lanka due to injuries. Sandun Virakodi, Lahiru Madhushanka and Chaturanga de Silva have replaced Nuwan Pradeep, Angelo Matthews and Danushka Gunatilaka. The first ODI between Sri Lanka and hosts South Africa will commence on Saturday at Port Elizabeth. And Formula One news, Bernie Ecclestone's 40-year reign as Formula One's commercial supremo ended yesterday with the sport's new owners Liberty Media replacing the 86-year-old Briton with American Chase Carey. Signalling the end of an era, Liberty said in a statement that it had completed the acquisition of Formula One and appointed Chairman Carey to the additional role of Chief Executive.
Bernie Ecclestone will become Chairman Emeritus, with Liberty saying he would remain available as a source of advice for the board of Formula One. Liberty also named 2 managing directors, former Ferrari technical director and ex-Mercedes team boss Ross Brawn for motorsports and former ESPN executive Sean Bratches for commercial operations. Both roles had been widely signaled in media reports. Liberty Media President and CEO Greg Maffei said Carey would lead the business from now on and thanked Ecclestone for his tremendous success in transforming Formula One into a $1 billion business. The takeover, valued at $8 billion included debt, has been broadly welcomed in a sport featuring famous car brands such as Ferrari, McLaren and world champions Mercedes, and which has the Monaco Grand Prix as its jewel in the crown. Kerry has spent the time since September familiarizing himself with the sport and has made clear that fundamental changes need to be made to the business model.
In devastating news for the U.S., a powerful storm system plowed up at the eastern U.S. seaboard and killed at least 21 people in the southern U.S. states. The governor of Georgia declared a state of emergency for several regions after tornadoes and heavy rainfall caused severe damage. And as we take a look at Trump's first days in power, Representative Mike Pompeo has been sworn in as President Donald Trump's CIA director after a delay tied to some lawmakers' worries that he might allow the use of certain interrogation techniques widely considered as torture. 66 senators backed Pompeo, while 32 Democratic senators voted against him. Some senators felt that Pompeo had not pledged strongly enough to allow only the use of interrogation techniques such as waterboarding and other enhanced interrogation techniques used by the CIA in the years after the September 11 attacks. Former President Barack Obama signed an executive order in 2009 banning waterboarding and other so-called enhanced interrogation techniques, which are denounced by many lawmakers and rights groups as torture.
Faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations. Very great to be back. Susan, if you want to stand on the other side of the table.
Absolutely.
The Senate Foreign Relations Committee has narrowly approved Donald Trump's choice, Rex Tillerson, former CEO of one of the biggest oil companies in the world, as U.S. Secretary of State. The vote split along the party lines, with all 11 Republicans voting for Tillerson and all 10 Democrats against him.
Rex Tillerson is expected to be confirmed for the position when the matter comes before the 100-member Senate, where Republicans hold a 52-seat majority. U.S. Republican Senator Marco Rubio reluctantly backed Tillerson in a move that all but secures Senate confirmation of the former ExxonMobil Corp chief executive as the nation's top diplomat. A vote in the Republican-controlled Senate was expected shortly after the committee vote. Tillerson was expected to win confirmation despite opposition from Democrats. At a confirmation hearing earlier this month, Tillerson's views appeared to be odds with Trump's on key foreign policy issues such as nuclear proliferation, trade deals, climate change, and relations with Mexico. The nominee also had a tense exchange with Rubio on whether he believed Russian President Vladimir Putin was a war criminal in reference to Russia's military actions in support of Syria's government. Tillerson said he would not use that term.
U.S. President Donald Trump has begun carrying out his campaign pledges to undo America's trade ties, starting with executive action to pull the United States out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The 12-nation trade deal was a linchpin of former President Barack Obama's Asia policy.
U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order on Trans-Pacific Partnership was largely symbolic, since the deal has not been ratified by a divided U.S. Congress. The TPP, which has also included Canada, Mexico, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Peru, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam and Brunei, would have slashed tariffs for American imports and exports with those countries. In exchange, the United States had negotiated labor, environmental and intellectual property protections that major businesses sought. The deal's critics complained that it did not directly address the issue of currency manipulation. On Sunday, Trump announced he would start to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement. Meanwhile, the 11 remaining TPP nations are now set to regroup. Trade ministers from those nations say they intend to press forward with the deal, but the United States' withdrawal could mean a major rewrite or an opening for another global superpower to pursue an alternative agreement.
We take a short break now. Stay with us for the weather report coming up. Welcome back. And it certainly seems as the much awaited weather, the rain is still here to stay, because an atmospheric disturbance is likely to cause changes in the weather all over the country and the surrounding sea area. The current rainy and windy conditions are expected to continue, with thunder showers expected over most parts of the island. Heavy rain, no more than 100 millimeters, is likely to occur at some places, particularly in the eastern, northern, north central, Uber and central provinces, with fairly strong winds at times. There may also be temporarily localized strong winds during thunder showers. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by lightning activity. And now let's take a look at the city-by-city weather forecast. And that's it on the news for tonight. Thank you for watching. Hope you'll join us again tomorrow night. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Ada Derana, 24/7.